What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is going on, everybody? Happy college football week 1. Like many people, I've been anticipating. I've been fired up for this game for months. I was laying in bed this morning at like 5 a.m. just staring at the ceiling, so excited, pacing around the house. And then the game happened. And we can just start. Let's not even waste any time. Let's just dive right in to the Arch Manning experience. I mean, that was leading my, I would say, excitement, anticipation, and just overall juice leading into this game was to watch this guy play. And I've been saying it over and over. And listen, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. He's got a long way to go. Your career is not defined by one game. But the hype has been insane. Honestly, it's been beyond over the top. I say this about all these quarterbacks, right? In basketball, sometimes the hype, hey, this guy's going to be the number one pick. He's an incredible player. For the most part, that's what happens, right? He's in college for 6 months and he's the number one pick or he's the number 2 pick. Happens all the time. So honestly, a lot of hype when it comes to that sport, like kind of know when you're 15, 16 years old. Football's kind of the opposite. We see all the time these guys like can't miss quarterback prospect, end up on 3 schools in 2 years. Can't miss quarterback prospect, never lives up to the hype and is benched by year 2. Never ends up starting. How many 5-stars in the NFL, hell, any position, or guys that were top 10, top 20 recruits go on when draft day comes, like, I can't believe this guy's an undrafted free agent. He was the most hyped recruit of all time. Now, sometimes Julio Jones, Jadeveon Clowney, Caleb Williams, like, obviously we see it with guys hype out of high school, go on to college, dominate, win the Heisman, be top picks. But I've said this for a long time. The hype on Arch Manning was fucking insane. He is, and I know what you're doing. Like, you're in the business. I always hate the word, like, it's for clicks. Well, yeah, that's the business they're in. Like, the business Ryan Day's in is to win games. If you do something for the internet in terms of writing, your job is to get people to click on it and look. Right? It's why Bronny James a couple years ago was mocked as a top 10 pick. It's why Arch Manning this year is being, most people are talking about it. It's not just one person, it's universal. I hope the Saints suck so they can get Arch Manning with the number 1 overall pick where his granddaddy Archie played. The Cowboys trade Micah Parsons. Maybe this is to suck and to get Arch Manning to come play for the Cowboys. And who knows, if Brian Schottenheimer sucks, take Sark too. It's like, guys, can he just play a game? Because unlike most sports, baseball guys are drafted out of high school on pure hype and potential. Basketball, it happens all the time. In football, to get drafted number 1 overall, you got to be pretty freaking good. Like, you got to be like, this guy's a can't-miss player on the field. Right? You obviously have to have the physical characteristics, but you got to do it on the field. You can't fake it in football. Those 12 games, those 2 years, they speak for themselves. And it's like, can Arch just, I don't know, throw some touchdowns in the SEC, play some real opponents? And there's no way around it. Today was not great. Not great at all. And up until a couple throws at the end, the touchdown pass was nice. The ball on the last drive down the sideline was nice. But overall, I thought today was really bad. He missed countless throws that should be considered layups. And to be a can't-miss player, to be a high-level quarterback in high school, college, or the pros, you have to hit basic passes. So on that final drive, when the dude's streaking across the field 5 or 6 yards away from you, you don't need to throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball behind him. You just lob it right there. And listen, I can't even imagine how the nerves, the excitement, the intensity on him as an individual leading into the game. I wasn't going to judge him for the first several drives. Like, listen, I can't even imagine how hyped up he is, right? How hard it is to calm himself down. And you thought as the game went on, he would kind of settle down. And I watched a guy that missed easy throw after easy throw after easy throw. This game does not define his career. So 2 things can be true. I thought he was mostly atrocious today. And the reason we're reacting to this, it's one game. If this was Joe Blow if this was Quinn Ewers a couple years ago, we wouldn't have these takes. But these people over and over, these people that cover the NFL draft, these people that cover the NFL have been telling me he's the greatest fucking thing since sliced bread. It's like, I've been watching football for 30 years. I worked in college football. I've scouted guys at these major universities. You got to be very careful about hype, because hype in football doesn't last long, because eventually you got to play the game. So whether you're a 5-star or whether you're a 2-star, you know who had no stars next to his name? Ashton Genty. Then what happened? He gets drafted 6th overall and almost breaks Barry Sanders' record. And we'll get into Boise State here in a second. But, like, you got to do it. And you watched him playing Ohio State kind of get manhandled. Now, you could say Matt Patricia, you overqualified defensive coordinator when it comes to college. And give him credit. He's taken that jab, and he's lost probably 100 pounds. Looks good physically. And they had a bunch of new players, but I thought they punked him. And one thing I saw on the internet was that Sark was not doing a good job. I think it's very hard as a play caller when your quarterback can't make easy throws to call plays. And you could tell throughout the game, he was very hesitant to call like back-to-back passes. He only had 30 attempts, and they were down the whole game. Now, granted, they were down 7 points, 14 points. It's not like they had a huge lead. But the play caller, like Sark's established, he's a good play caller. He knows what he's doing as a play caller. We can nitpick individual plays, but overall, the course of the game, like, he's done enough to get the benefit of the doubt. Like, he knows what he's doing, and he knows the ebb and flow of a game. We have seen enough guys that have no skills when it comes to calling plays. And today I saw a guy who early on could tell his quarterback was pretty rattled for whatever reason, could not get comfortable, was holding onto the ball. Listen, we crushed Caleb Williams for holding onto the ball too long. Not even us. Hell, his own coach does. Get rid of the football. Countless times today, Arch held. It's one thing if it's, a rollout play where you're holding, and then you can take off. Some of these plays are clearly pocket passes where you got a couple seconds. You're playing a bunch of guys that are going to get drafted high. You got to get rid of the rock. And he held, and then he would kind of run into a sack or like run in for a couple yards. It's like you can't really function like that. And it's not going to matter when you're playing Sam Houston State or San Jose. But when you're playing Florida, when you're playing Georgia, when you're playing Texas A&M, it's going to really matter. They're going to be so much more talented than, I would say, 8 of their opponents. But there are going to be a couple more games where the talent is semi-even. Today, the talent, like, you remove the quarterbacks, that's an even game. These are elite players everywhere. This has become like, that's Target and that's Walmart. These teams have unlimited money. They can buy any fucking player they want, which I'm all for. Like, have at it. Now, you could argue they've been doing that forever, but now the numbers are so big, huge advantage to programs like Ohio State and Texas. So the separating factors now, to me, are 2 things more than ever. It's a lot like the NFL. Coaches and quarterback. Well, listen, I've been critical, actually, of both guys. Hell, I'm probably one of the last guys who was very critical of Sark. He's done a really good job at Texas. Unlike Ryan Day, and this is just a reality, when he took over Texas, it was a joke. It was a dumpster fire. And he's turned that program around. They've been in the Final Four the last 2 years. Right? Ryan Day winning the national championship last year, no one can take that away from him. That was really, really impressive, especially after the embarrassing loss to Michigan. They're both really good coaches. They're both great recruiters. The talent on their rosters speak for themselves. It's elite. But if their quarterback's good, they're going to be excellent. Their quarterback's meh, they're going to, again, when they're playing equal opponents, they're going to have issues. And today we saw Julian Sayin, who I didn't know that much about. When you see him interviewed at the end of the game, he looks like he's 10 years old. Obviously, hype guy from Southern California, goes to Bama. Saban retires. He goes to Ohio State. I'm sure making a ton of coin. Like, this guy's a really talented player as well. But unlike the outside, like, not everyone is giving the kid the reach around. Hell, the narrative coming out of Ohio State is like, listen, he won the job, but it was not easy. Whoever the other kid is, I don't even forget his name, but like Urban Meyer, when I was on Coward's show, was like, this was a little closer than you think. And clearly Urban knows Ryan Day's his guy. Where everyone's like, Arch Manning. I bought into the hype. How could you not? Sometimes you say stuff enough, it's like, yeah, it's got to be true. This guy's going to be really good. Because I, like most people, was like, hey, how could he not just, at minimum, be a really good player? Maybe not like the best player we've ever seen. Maybe not John Elway or Andrew Luck or his Uncle Peyton, but just be a really good college player. And you saw a guy today who was swimming, who was honestly over his head. beside a couple plays late, was mostly atrocious. And if that guy was named Quinn Ewers, if that was not Arch Manning, if that was Quinn Ewers who just played that game, everyone would be like, this guy sucks. Why don't they bench him for Arch Manning? That would have been 100% the conversation. And listen, they get a couple layup games before going on the road to the swamp here in a couple weeks, but they got to figure out a way to calm him down when you're throwing a wheel route or a quick out route or just something, a basic route that essentially runs or operates like a run in the passing game, which gets you 5 yards, 7 yards. Might not get you an explosive play and might not even get you a first down, but goes from 1st and 10 to 2nd and 4 or 2nd and 8 to 3rd and 2, right? And just helps you breathe. They could not do that today. And nothing was more, that sums that up more and symbolizes his day than that final, second to last throw when their star receiver's coming across that's not very far away from him and he slingshots a fastball. Where all he needs, like if you got a high-level NFL quarterback, a Lamar Jackson, you got Josh Allen, you got any top 15 quarterback in the NFL, that's just a lob pass. That's a lob pass to the guy. That's a touch pass where you throw him, even if it's not perfect right in front of him, hits him in the breadbasket, he keeps going. Arch throws this high rocket behind him where this guy's such a good athlete, puts his hand behind him, hits the ball, still almost catches it, but it was like, that can't happen. And that pass consistently happened throughout the day. And if I would have told Sark and the Texas fans and the Texas administration that Ohio State would score 14 points and you would, control Jeremiah Smith again and him have 43 yards, no touchdowns, every single person, led by Matthew McConaughey, would have signed up for that. Wait, they're going to score 14 points and Jeremiah Smith is going to have 43 yards total and no touchdowns? We're in. You would have to take that. At worst case scenario, we play like shit, tie game, we're going to overtime. But even if I'm confident in, hey, there's a good team, we win 24-14. It's like, no, honestly, it took a crazy second to last drive to even make it 14-7. So Ohio State, I'm pro SEC. And I think the SEC has proven over the last Saban era, they were clearly the best conference. Their top 4 or 5 teams were better than every other conference. Ohio State, once Urban got there, turned into an SEC program. He's talked about this. Their big thing was to recruit everyone. We're going to go into Florida and we're going to get elite players. We will get whoever we want, wherever we want. That's how we'll operate. And they've morphed into an SEC team. Now, they are listen, is Texas the best team in the SEC? Well, they were right there last year, right? Only Georgia was better. They lost to them twice. But Ohio State, I thought the gap today, if that's how Arch is going to play, was pretty wide. Texas got really good players so they can control Jeremiah Smith. Most teams do not. Ohio, big day for the Big Ten. That was a big moment. And a big moment for Ryan Day. Because I was thinking about this watching, you got Urban Meyer with Fox, you got Nick Saban with ESPN, and the reason these two coaches, the reason Ryan Day is at Ohio State is because Urban Meyer gave him the job, essentially. The reason Steve Sarkisian is at Texas because Nick Saban changed his life, changed his career. Those two guys are in those positions because of Urban Meyer and Nick Saban, who are obviously way better than those two guys. And that's no slight at those two guys. Nick Saban's the greatest college coach of all time, and Urban Meyer's one of them. I mean, they're both all-time greats, right? But these are two guys. Ryan Day now has a championship. A lot of people like myself think Sark can get one when you're coaching in Texas. But it all comes down to how good your quarterback. The reason that Ryan Day and that team got hot those last 4 games, Will Howard turned into Peyton Manning. He dominated. He was elite. This is not the days of 10, 15, 20, definitely when I was a kid, where you could have some complete scrub and your roster be so good and you win the Natty. Because now to win the Natty, you got to win countless playoff games. Even if you get a bye, you got to win 3. That's really, really hard. And they got a long way to go for Arch. I mean, a long way to go. And I'm not going to correct and change my opinion these next couple days. But what we learned today is hype is just that. Doesn't mean a goddamn thing. I can tell you it's the greatest restaurant of all time. I can tell you she's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. But if she walks through that door and she's a 4, you can be like, Middlekauff, what are you talking about? If you walk into that restaurant and there's hair in your rice and your steak is overcooked, you're going to be like, this place sucks. Like, we can only go off what we see. We're just reacting to this, which is one of the most hyped games of all time, and he's easily, to me, the most hyped college football player of my lifetime. Now, there have been guys who became more famous as they played. Tebow, Reggie Bush, Cam, whoever, Joe Burrow, Caleb Williams. They had to do it by games. So like Joe Burrow's hype became when we watched him play. Cam Newton became this legend when he dragged a team of randoms to the Natty. Reggie Bush, when he dominated everyone he played. They did it. There has never been a guy, ever, with this much hype who has not played and then does play, and everyone's like, wait, what? And I want him to be good. It's interesting. It's a fascinating story. It's exciting. It's entertaining. But that was not. I mean, that was rough to watch. As a lover of football, as a lover of high-level quarterback play, that was rough. And I think now, and this is why these guys get paid so much money. Because how could you, if you were Arch, not be head down a little bit, right? And I understand he's a high-level cat and, doesn't like let the press clippings go to his head and not dialed in on social media 24/7, 365. We're all human beings. How could he not have his tail between his legs a little bit? And this is on Sark over these next couple weeks to kind of build him back up, because there are going to be a lot of people around the program, a lot of people in Austin, Texas, a lot of people in the SEC. You're no longer in the Big 12. You're in the SEC who are going to be like, the fuck is this? What the hell's going on there? So props to Ohio State. Massive win. Big win for Ryan Day, who's won a lot of big games recently. Right? Just has. Texas, Notre Dame, beat the shit out of Tennessee, beat Texas again. Got to be feeling good. He's got to be feeling good. Might ban Portnoy from coming in the stadium, but wins a lot of games. The rivalries, the marching bands, the upsets, Saturdays just got way more fun. College football is back, baby. Think you know the game? Put your college football knowledge to the test with DraftKings Sportsbook and turn your picks into big payouts. Live betting during the game, rivalry week odds boosts, and so much more. DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered. Here's the thing. There is no bigger game than Saturday morning. Texas, Ohio State. I understand Arch has never started a big game. Played a couple last year, but never anything like this. Ohio State lost a ton of guys to the draft. I think this Texas team, if Arch lives up to the hype, poised to win a natty, I'm taking Texas. I know it's at the shoe. I know it's a tough environment. I just think, as Earl Woods used to tell Tiger Woods, let the legend grow. That's what I would tell Arch Manning. Go win this game, cover that spread, money line, let the legend grow. And here's something special for first-timers, new customers. Bet just $5 and get 300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Use the code John. That's code John for new customers to get 300 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. In partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours. And last but not least, you look at Ohio State's schedule. Their team is just going to be so good on defense. And offensively, most people are not going to have the athletes to do what Texas just did to them. They are going to dominate. Now, are they the best team in the Big Ten? I don't know. We'll see how Penn State and some of these teams look as time goes on. But they're going to be really, really good. They're going to be in the playoffs. You look at Texas, they're going to need a lot more out of Arch if they're going to beat A&M, if they're going to beat Florida, if they're going to beat Georgia. Maybe, we saw last year with the 12-team playoff, you're no lock if you go 9-3. I think you got to feel pretty good about yourself going 10-2. So you can afford more losses, and people love saying this, your season's not over after one game. That is true, but your margin for error gets really, really slim really, really fast when you have big-time opponents. Now, when you play in if you play in the ACC, if Clemson were to lose tonight, little less unfazed. But their schedule's a lot easier than playing SEC opponents. It just is. That's where, to me, I stand by when it comes to supporting the SEC. It's way harder to play their average teams than it is to play a lot of these conference average teams. Now, on a given year, maybe the Big Ten has a more room for argument there, but these other conferences simply do not. They just don't. But yeah, solid start for the Big Ten. Watching, quick thing on Deion. I know he lost, but I was really impressed watching them play. I mean, their quarterback's not very good, and I would guess over the course of the next couple weeks, they transition their young, highly touted guy, definitely split snaps in regular season games, and potentially just go with the other guy. And I get, Deion's old school. You have a guy who's been in your program who probably does things the right way. You want to give the benefit of the doubt. It's not how I'm wired. I would just go with the more talented guy. But like old school people, especially people that grew up with football in the '80s and '90s, when he played, kind of the way it worked. But that guy, your team is actually pretty solid. You're not going to win games with that guy. What he has done at Colorado, like I was thinking this last night, over the course of the last 10, 15 years, pre-Deion, you couldn't have paid me to give my Friday night to Colorado, Georgia Tech. And I have worked in football and now talked about football for a living for almost 2 decades. And there's not enough money you could have paid me to made me care about that game knowing that no one else gives a shit. I didn't budge for 3+ hours. I was glued. Now, part of it is like I like the Georgia Tech coach. Haynes King's a fun player, but that was like the atmosphere in Boulder was awesome. That place was rocking. Deion Sanders took a dog shit, dead football brand, irrelevant, didn't matter, and made them matter again. So whatever they're paying Deion, you'd be like, well, he's only 12 and 13. His value to that program, making them not only relevant, brought in the Heisman Trophy. They're going to be, I don't know, they depending on their quarterback play, they could probably win anywhere from 6 to 9 games this year. I think Georgia Tech, most people think it's going to be pretty solid. That was a real football team they played. And they were going toe-to-toe with them as their quarterback, little like Arch Manning, throwing balls over guys' heads, skipping balls. But their physicality, they're just well-coached. And that city and area knows it. And that place was sold out, rocking, Foxes there. It just felt big. It really did. So we can argue, like, should Shador's number have been retired immediately? Like, I get people to be like, it's kind of ridiculous. Because it is kind of crazy when you see Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter. I'd have Travis Hunter just won the Heisman. You want to retire? I get where people are like, this is pretty nuts. But just in terms of Deion's impact to that program, again, irrelevant. Did not matter at all in a sport that really matters. That's the number 2 sport in America. I bet that game this morning had well over 10 million people watching. Up until Game 7 of this NBA Finals, they weren't sniffing 9 million. If you told me 15 million people in the peak were watching Ohio State, Texas, I'd believe it. 20's on the table. Who knows? This number's going to be huge. College football really matters. I bet last night Deion will get 5 or 6 million people watching Friday night on Fox. But they wouldn't have 4 or 5 years ago, not with that program, because they would have been unwatchable. They would have been terrible. And I just think what Deion's done from a business standpoint, football, we'll see how many games he wins. I already think he's proven, watching him last night, like, good coach. Like, he's solid. Like, knows what he's doing. He's not going to be at Colorado long. But he resurrected and saved that program because it was deader than a doornail. I got my start in football. Many of you know this, but at Fresno State, when I go on with Coward, I think he thinks I went to Fresno State. I technically went to Cal Poly. I was a GA at Fresno State. Got a master's degree, no big deal. Pretty meaningless and irrelevant, and I don't even remember really going to class, but I did get it. I got it framed in my closet. But I take a lot of pride in Coach Hill. I love the guy and people I worked with there, the players that were basically the same age as me when I went there right after college, still friends with a bunch, friends with a lot of people from the Fresno area. I love Fresno State football. My cousin played there before I went to work there. I've rooted for the program for a long time. And going to work for that program, then I saw Boise State in their heyday, had a front row seat. So I have a lot of respect for smaller, I get Power 5 forever, but Power 4 programs that aren't at that level, but consistently beat those teams and are really good year in, year out. It's hard because you don't have the budgets, Ohio State and Texas, of just like random Power 4 programs. You have no business competing with them. And for a long time, Boise could beat anybody. And there were years where I thought legitimately they could compete for a national championship. The one year Kaepernick beat them in Nevada at night when I think Boise missed a couple field goals, I thought that's Boise's best team ever. I thought they could have won the national championship. And Fresno, I don't think we were ever quite good enough on defense, but NFL players constantly, guys drafted in the first, second round, guys drafted in a bunch of different rounds. It was a legitimate NFL program. It pains me to say this. The days of those type programs are done. It's over. NIL killed them. A couple weeks ago, when I was flying to Hawaii, week 0, Fresno State got their teeth kicked in by Kansas. 24 hours ago, Boise got worked by the University of South Florida. Got destroyed. And last year you saw Boise in the playoffs. And obviously an enormous reason that they made it that far and had an excellent team was their star running back, who had a season that paralleled Barry Sanders. Well, I didn't know this, but right at the beginning of the year last year, there was an athletic article on him. And Coach Dickert, who actually is at Wake Forest now, that came on this podcast, had given interviews as well. The Boise program and the boosters in the NAL, the most money they could pay the kid was $300,000, which was by far the most money given to a guy in the Mountain West. I think it's called the Pac-12. None of us know. None of us give a shit. Bottom line, that group of teams, right? The San Diego States, the New Mexicos, Oregon State, Washington State. Highest paid guy was $300,000, Ashton Jeanty. Well, he turned down to stay at Boise because he was very loyal. He's like a military brat. He was offered 7 figures by multiple programs, and he turned them down because he had loyalty to Boise and then had this historic season. That is an outlier situation. The equivalent of Ashton Jeanty at those type programs are gone 100% of the time moving forward. When I was at Fresno State, we had Ryan Matthews, who was drafted, I think, 12th overall, who was our running back. He replaced LaDainian Tomlinson with the Chargers. They literally cut him and drafted Ryan to replace him. Didn't go well. He got injured a lot, but Ryan was like a freak talent. There is no way on God's green earth, if the NIL existed, Ryan would have been on the Fresno State team his junior year. We couldn't afford it to keep him, despite his loyalty. Because there gets to a point, it's like they're offering Texas or USC or whoever is offering me $1.4 million, and the most you can pay me is $175,000 in free sandwiches. These teams cannot compete. And listen, you could argue that's the way the world works in a capitalistic society with the economics, the way this world operates from Target to Walmart has been knocking out the little guy forever. That's the way we operate in the business world. Why is football any different? And it's not. And I'm not saying that that's wrong, because if I was one of these kids and I was at San Diego State and Ohio State got on the horn and said, this happened to Josh Simmons, the dude the Chiefs just drafted 31st. I didn't know this. I assumed like, oh, it's just a 5-star left tackle. He started his career at San Diego State. So when you have an elite talent, when you have a blue chip guy that for whatever reason, maybe his grades, maybe he was an underachiever in high school, maybe he was just a late bloomer. The moment you become bloom, like you become good, like it's clear, like there's no denying how talented a guy is. He's going to go to Oregon. He's going to go to Ohio State. He's going to go to Alabama. He's going to go to LSU. And I don't blame any of these guys, because those guys out of high school would have gone to those places if they were offered a scholarship. But it's over. The little guy, and this, we saw this in college basketball last year. The reason that the number 1 seeds are all going to consistently be making huge runs, the number 1 and 2 seeds, is because the Butlers of the world had a chance back in the day, VCUs. They will never have those players on the team their senior year. Why? Because they would be bought and paid for by their sophomore year. And that's definitely happening in college football. So the top brands in college football have always had a big advantage. The same teams have been winning most of my life. In the 90s, it was like Nebraska, Florida State, Miami. Over the last 25 years in Florida, it's been Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, right? Those teams, the top, the cream of the crop has been the cream of the crop, give or take a team or two for a long period of time. But it is never going to be less fair moving forward for the little guy. And this is what I said when they created the playoffs. I didn't understand why they gave an automatic bid to the non-Power 4 conference. Then a bunch of people in the college football world said, well, it's because of like litigation. They don't want to get sued. I get it, but I don't think they deserve a spot. Like last year, if you want to give Boise State because they have this great player, but for the most part, like just give James Madison a spot because they went 12-0. Like, I'm sorry, they shouldn't. And hopefully, as time goes on, that changes, and we stop worried about getting sued in terms of like we just want the best teams in the dance. But when it comes, if you're a fan of those programs, if you went to school with those programs, and it was always cool knowing like we could take on the big dog, you can't anymore. And you won't even have the players on your team by the time they come into their own as star players because they will be picked off. They will be bought and they will be stolen to other players. My wife was like, "What's the transfer portal?" And I started to explain it. She's like, "So kind of like a dating app?" I'm like, "Kind of like a dating app where you put in your information, but then whoever would quote unquote be on the other side who wanted to date you basically has to buy you. So if you're a good player and you throw your name in the transfer portal, you get bought. And the reason typically you put your name in there, obviously some people's like, I'm not playing, but a lot of people go like Minnesota. I think today they were saying Ohio State's one of their offensive linemen is from Minnesota. Well, clearly what happened? Ohio State's watching this kid in Minnesota going, God, this guy's really good. He would start for us. So whether he go to the back channel or hell, maybe they just text him or DM him directly, go, you want to start for Ohio State? And the answer is going to be, this guy's at Minnesota. This is a Power Four program. Like a good, you're in the Big Ten. But fuck yeah, I'd like to play at Ohio State. Would you rather throw a party for winning 8 games or try to win the national championship? I don't blame any of these guys. Hell, you could argue it's the money is secondary. Like who's turning down going to Oregon, going to Texas, going to Ohio State if they had the opportunity from a smaller program? But that opportunity didn't really used to exist because like no one was going to sit out a year. It's like I'll just play, I'll ball out here, and I'll be a second round pick. Well, now it's like I'll just ball out here until they call me, and then I'll go there and I'll ball out even more with more people watching and make more money, and then be a second round pick. So that's clearly what's happening right now, and in a weird way, it saddens me a little.